IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with Mark Twain. Did you know that Mark Twain is not his real name? In fact, his real name was Samuel Langhorne Clemens. And before settling down on his pen name Mark Twain, he had tried different ones. Things like Thomas Jefferson Snodgrass, Sergeant Fathom, and simply Josh. I just love that. One single line, Josh, like Madonna. That's it. Anyway, Mark Twain is actually a nautical phrase used by sailors on the Mississippi River. A pole or a rope was used to measure the depth of the Mississippi River, and the depth was measured in fathoms, which is equal to about 6 feet. And the rope was thus marked to signify how many fathoms deep it was. A river boat could safely sail over 2 fathoms deep of water, or 12 feet. The person responsible for measuring would shout out the number of fathoms, and Twain meant 2, Trey was 3, Quad was 4. Now, the author used to work on these river boats and hence knew all about these calls. So he chose the name Mark Twain, which meant the second fathom mark, and this communicated safe passage. Now, apart from his literary works, his quotes are amazing and hit the nail on the head. And I want to share one of Mark Twain's quotes with you. He says, "A man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read." Now, how powerful is that? And this quote is so true. What is the point of knowing how to read if you don't end up reading good books? In school, I was always forced to read. And as a result, I stopped reading after school. I detest the idea of picking up a book and flipping through it. In a bookstore, I would just go to the comic section or sit in a corner and hope that the time passes quickly. I started reading very late in life, around the age of 31. I just started a business, and the books I was reading helped me tremendously in setting up and making that business successful. In fact, I owe a lot of my success to reading books and the knowledge that other people have created or cared to put down on those pages. Now, this year, I have set myself a goal to finish 60 books. And it is the start of May right now as I record this, and I'm about 35 books down. So, well on track. And people keep asking me, how do I manage to read so much? Do I remember what I've read? And where do I find the time? So I thought I would share 3 habits that help me go through and retain so many books. Importantly, I read mainly non-fiction books. So these techniques would not apply if you are reading for the joy of reading and all of that. I very clearly read for the information, and that is it. So the first is to learn speed reading. There are many techniques to speed read, and all of them take a lot of practice to get right. So start practicing these from now onwards because they will take a while for you to gather and become good at. Step 1 is to stop reading aloud in your mind. Stop trying to read in a particular voice. You just want to pick up the meaning of what is written. And I remember in school, our teacher used to say, "I will read it aloud, you read it aloud in your mind." So as a result, we got into the habit of saying the words aloud in our heads, even though we're not lipping it or saying them out aloud vocally. The second step is to start reading 3 words together. Don't focus on one word at a time. Instead, focus on reading multiple words at a time. This way, your eyes start to move faster and faster. You can use the same technique for speed reading audiobooks. Just speed up the narration. You will soon train yourself to pick up the essence of what is being written, the big ideas, the aha moments. When reading non-fiction, this is the essence of what the author was trying to convey. And it is this essence that I remember when I read so many books. I don't remember the book in its entirety. Now, however, there are some books that have a magical ability to give you a fresh perspective every time you read them. For example, Think and Grow Rich, Tao Te Ching, Naval Ravikant's book, and I reread them every year. So finding the time is quite easy because what I do is I read audiobooks when I'm driving or walking. And this makes me look forward to long drives and walks, earlier things that I would hate to do. Then I read physical books for about 30 minutes every morning and in the evening if I'm home. So 30 minutes of speed reading means I could easily breeze through about 3 chapters of a book. So if I read a medium-sized book, it would take me about 4 or 5 days to finish a book. Now, I know many of you might find speed reading offensive because we are not respecting the author of the book and the effort that they took while writing it. But I believe that the habit of speed reading is essential in today's day and age, where information is king. The ability to consume large amounts of information is a habit I would like all of you to have. And I say this as your habit coach. So your super simple habit to read more starts by increasing the speed with which you read. Start by reading blocks of words at a time. Get into the habit of seeing the words and understanding the meaning instead of saying them out aloud in your mind. Finally, learn to capture the essence of what you've read. What is the point the author wants to drive home? Learn that. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show for those who prefer listening to it in that language. Do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.
Hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vineet meets the CEO of Slum Soccer, Dr. Abhijit Barse, the inspiration behind the film Jhund. On Cyrus Says Cock and Bull, Cyrus talks to Sriram, Shreyas and myself, Silvery. They discuss the thieves of Sangli who use an excavator to dig out an ATM machine. On The Habit Coach, Ashdin tells us how we can make being bold a part of our personality. On Postcards from Nowhere, Utsav deep dives into Mughlai cooking with a biryani versus pulao debate. I'd be interested in that. And on Hanswani, hear the story Antibodies, exploring men's tendency to avoid responsibility and blame fate. Do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, do tell a friend. It really helps us out a lot. Also, don't forget to rate us on any platforms you're listening on, and you can also check us out on YouTube. We are also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches, or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun.
And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcast's website, app,
or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.